The sun was sinking behind the red cliffs of Escalante, Utah, casting long shadows over the rugged landscape. The air was dry and still, a stark contrast to the bustling streets of New York City where Claire Dunham had spent most of her life. She had come to Escalante's petrified forest for an escape, hoping the change of scenery would help her recover from the recent loss of her mother. She never imagined the trip would lead her into a nightmare. Claire was an archaeologist, and the petrified forest fascinated her. The trees, turned to stone over millions of years, held secrets of the ancient past. She spent her days hiking the trails, studying the fossils, and sketching the unique formations. The locals had warned her about taking anything from the park. There were stories of a curse that befell anyone who disturbed the petrified wood. Claire, a woman of science, dismissed these tales as mere superstition. One evening, as she walked along a remote trail, Claire came across an unusually beautiful piece of petrified wood. It was about the size of her hand, with vibrant hues of red and yellow swirling through it. She couldn't resist the urge to take it back to her cabin to study. She tucked it into her backpack and continued on her way, unaware of the ancient curse she had just invoked. That night, Claire had a strange dream. She was in the forest, but it was different, darker, more sinister. The trees seemed to whisper, their voices filled with anger and sorrow. She felt an overwhelming sense of dread as she wandered through the twisted landscape. When she woke up, she was drenched in sweat, her heart pounding. Over the next few days, Claire noticed strange things happening. Her electronic devices malfunctioned, her compass spun wildly, and she felt an inexplicable chill even in the desert heat. She tried to rationalize these events, blaming them on the stress of her recent loss. But deep down, she knew something was terribly wrong. One evening, as she sat in her cabin examining the piece of petrified wood, she heard a knock at the door. She opened it to find an elderly woman standing on her porch. The woman's eyes were piercing, filled with a mix of anger and pity. "You have taken something that does not belong to you," the woman said, her voice low and ominous. Claire's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" "The wood. It is cursed. You must return it before it's too late." Claire tried to explain that she was a scientist and didn't believe in curses, but the woman cut her off. "Whether you believe or not does not matter. The forest is angry. You must make amends." With that, the woman turned and walked away, disappearing into the night. Claire was left standing on her porch, her mind racing. She decided to heed the warning and return the piece of wood the next morning. As dawn broke, Claire set out for the spot where she had found the petrified wood. The forest was eerily quiet, the usual sounds of wildlife absent. She walked quickly, her senses on high alert. When she reached the spot, she carefully placed the wood back where she had found it. But it was too late. As she turned to leave, the ground beneath her feet gave way, and she tumbled into a deep crevice. She landed hard, the wind knocked out of her. When she looked up, she saw the twisted roots of ancient trees above her, like skeletal fingers reaching down to grab her. Claire tried to climb out, but the walls were too steep and slippery. Panic set in as she realized she was trapped. She shouted for help, but her voice was swallowed by the oppressive silence of the forest. Hours passed, and the light began to fade. Claire's mind raced with thoughts of her mother, her work, and the life she had left behind. She was too young to die here, in this cursed place. As darkness fell, Claire heard the whispering again. The voices of the forest grew louder, their anger palpable. She felt a cold presence closing in around her, and she knew she was not alone. Shadows danced on the walls of the crevice, and she could see figures moving in the darkness. The old woman's warning echoed in her mind. The forest is angry. Suddenly, the temperature dropped, and a dense fog filled the crevice. Claire's breath came in ragged gasps as she watched the shadows take shape. They were the spirits of those who had taken from the forest, their faces twisted in agony. One of the spirits stepped forward, its eyes locking onto Claire's. "You have disturbed our resting place," it said, its voice a chilling hiss. "For this, you will join us." Claire tried to scream, but no sound came out. The spirits closed in, their cold hands reaching for her. She felt her body go numb as they dragged her down into the darkness. The next morning, a search party was sent out to find Claire. They scoured the forest, calling her name, but there was no sign of her. It was as if she had vanished into thin air. The locals shook their heads, muttering about the curse of the petrified forest. Years passed, and Claire's disappearance became just another tale to be told around campfires. The piece of petrified which she had taken remained in the forest, a silent reminder of the price of disturbing the ancient trees. And deep within the forest, in a dark crevice, the spirits continued to whisper, their voices filled with the sorrow and anger of those who had been taken. Claire was among them now, her soul bound to the cursed land. She would wander the petrified forest for eternity, a warning to all who dared to disturb its ancient secrets.